In Investing 101 today, John Hale, a director of research in the area of sustainable investment research, is here to talk about this growing area. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Sure, my pleasure.
So the definition of sustainable investing is what?
In a nutshell, the best way to define it is to say it's about embedding environmental, social, and corporate governance criteria into an investment process.
Are investors interested? Are you seeing growth?
Yes, we're seeing a lot of growth among investors in the U.S. in particular. We're seeing particularly younger investors, millennials. Women tend to be more interested than men, but you know, just to make sure we're clear, men are also interested as well. Investors on the whole, 50-65% say they're interested in this.
Wow.
Yeah.
How's the performance tend to be?
So the performance is generally good. There's a variety of different ways that you can embed sustainability types of decision making in investments. So there's a range of performance, but on average what I find is that performance tends to be on the positive side relative to conventional funds.
Interesting. What about price competitiveness?
Well, price competitiveness, I would say, is generally not a huge concern with sustainable funds. They on the whole tend to cost about as much as conventional funds do on average. All that being said, there is such a preference these days for ultra low cost passive funds that a sustainable fund, even a sustainable passive fund, is going to cost a little bit more than that rock bottom priced market-based fund.
What are some of the top funds? Are you able to talk about that at all?
Well, there's a number of good funds out there. I mean, in my recent report, I identified 240 funds in the American market, funds and ETFs that do this kind of thing. A couple of ones that are sort of worth looking at, or at least fund families. There's a small fund family called Parnassus that has several really strong equity funds that they run. They're an active manager. On the bond side, TIAA, TIAA-CREF Social Bond Fund, is a very interesting approach because overall you get the same level of exposure you would get with a conventional intermediate bond fund, but about 40% of the assets in this fund are dedicated to projects that, or bonds that finance projects that go to have an environmental or societal impact.
And then how would somebody go about doing research on these funds before investing?
Well, you can always go to Morningstar.com and find a fair amount of research about this. We have a sustainability rating that tries to assess how well the holdings in a fund's portfolio are doing on various sustainability issues. So I think that's a great place to start.
I'm sure you do. Well, thank you for being on this show today. We appreciate you coming in with this conversation. Thank you.
My pleasure.